la, la, la. Once again, welcome back to the Letterman podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm. Right there, you just got a sneak peek of our very, very special guest. I love doing this show so much. Thank you so much for all the responses that we've gotten so far, for everything from the insiders of the Letterman world to all of the folks in the Letterman enthusiast community who just love what it is that we're doing. Thank you so much for the unbridled support that you have given us so far. I want to get right to it because our guest today, I can't believe that it's taken us 18 episodes to have somebody to do with the musical portion of the Letterman community be on the show. I can't believe it's taken this long because music is such a part of the Letterman mythos, and we're so excited to kick that off with a bang by having Tom Bones Malone on this episode. I was a trombone player myself in high school, all the way up, played jazz, contemporary, all sorts of stuff. Tom is one of the world's best arrangers of music. He has arranged, I think it's in the neighborhood of 3,000 pieces of music. Tom can correct me if I'm wrong on that. He has a legendary career, not just as a studio musician, but also with the original Saturday Night Live incarnation, and has gotten one of the most, well, I mean, really rare things for a musician, in that he got a gig that lasted him decades long. And we're going to talk about that, of course, being in the horn section and the arranger for The Late Show with David Letterman. Tom, thank you for taking time out of your day to be part of the Letterman podcast.
My pleasure.
Oh, man, that's great. Oh, is that you over on your end? You ringing?
I don't know what that was.
I don't know what that was either. Okay.
I didn't arrange that.
I have so many things that I can ask you and want to ask you, and so many little rabbit holes and pathways that we can go down. We're talking about a legendary career in music here. Are you self-aware of that? Like, are you self-aware of the impact that you have made on music, pop culture, the different acts that you've worked with? Or are you just, a guy that just loves to play the horn and arrange notes on a page?
Both.
The Late Show, again, a 30-year gig, 20-year gig with the Late Show and then Saturday Night Live.
10 years at Saturday Night Live and 22 years at Letterman.
22. Okay, so 32 years in total in big time show business. A very rare thing for a musician to have a gig that lasts that long.
This is true. This is very true. Very lucky to have been doing all this stuff on the resume. I sent you a resume.
You sent me a resume. Well,
you didn't read it.
I didn't. I didn't. Now, that being said, I don't know how much of it well, then again, how long would that resume have been? I mean, the list of artists that you have worked on, am I correct in saying that almost 3,000 pieces of music that you've arranged?
Yes. And my resume is 14 pages, single space. And the bio lists all the people I played with. I played with everybody in the business.
Yeah. I've got a couple on the list that I want to, there's big, huge names, Tina Turner and Carly Simon and some of these other names. And then other ones, Bruce Willis. Did you work on They Call Me Bruno, Bruce Willis's album before he kind of got big? Is that the one you worked on?
No, I did not. I played with him at the Letterman show, but and he was always a very personable guy.
Oh, I love that. Like, again, the plethora of names and genres and things that you have done, it cannot be measured. I want to go back to the beginning a little bit because I love how you and Paul Shaffer, how your careers have kind of really intermingled with each other right from the very beginning. Did you and Paul, first off, you guys started at Saturday Night Live together, right?
Yes, we were in the original band, 1975. The first show was actually October 3rd, 1975. And Paul is an unusually intelligent, intuitive guy. He has a degree in sociology from University of Toronto. I have a degree in psychology from North Texas State. So we kind of bond on that too. But
that's cool.
Paul has perfect auditory recall. He remembers everything he's ever heard. Like when he's 10 years old, he hears a record and he remembers it note for note. Or he sees a TV show and he sees his favorite band play a song and the guitar player played a different solo during the 8-bar solo, and he remembers that solo note for note. And he remembers conversations that he and I had in 1975. Paul was just moving to New York and he was asking me about what it's like to live in New York, and I started telling him, and he recounted the whole conversation word for word. You remember when you said this and I said this?
Wow.
So and he can you know, he probably has 25,000 songs in his brain, and he can play them instantly in any key, which is quite amazing to me. So anyway, we were in the original band at Saturday Night Live, and then we were in the Blues Brothers when the Blues Brothers broke away from Saturday Night Live and formed our own band. It was Paul and myself and Lou Marini, Alan Rubin, and Steve Jordan. You know, came out of the Saturday Night Live band, and then we got some other guys. I recommended Duck and Steve, and you know, we put the band together. But okay, so I was in the band from 75 to 85, and I was the music director from 81 to 85. Basically, it was Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo, Martin Short, and Billy Crystal, that era. So anyway, so I started doing the job. I was the arranger, the contractor, and musician and music director for the show, and started in 81. In 1982, I got a call from my unit manager. She says, Liz Anderson, she says, I got a new job. I'm like, congratulations, what's your new job? She says, I'm the associate producer of the David Letterman show. I said, what's that? She says, you've never seen it. It comes on early in the morning, but we're changing the show to late night. And we're looking for somebody to lead a 4-piece band and be a personality. And I just wonder if you'd be interested. So the financial offer was about 20% of what I was making at Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So anyway, now Paul Shaffer had gone out to the coast, you know, to California, and was in a show called A Year at the Top with Greg Avigan. He was an actor, and the show went six or seven episodes, and the network pulled the plug. So Paul came back to town about 2 weeks before this phone call, and I said to Liz, I said, I can't really do it myself, but you should get this kid Paul Shaffer. He'll take care of it. He's really good. You know, so I had a network feed monitor up in my office. I'm writing an arrangement one day, and I hear this band playing. And I look over there, and it's Paul Shaffer, Steve Jordan, Will Lee, and Hiram Bullock. He got the job. Nobody ever told me. But so you know, he was the music director downstairs in NBC for all those years. And then when they switched the show to late night and went to CBS, Paul was nice enough to call me to be in the band and be his arranger.
I let you just talk there because you summed up what it would have taken me 10 minutes to ask you the questions of to leave the trail of breadcrumbs to how you guys have intertwined like that. That is phenomenal how you helped him get his original gig at Letterman and then he got you the gig that would last another 22 years after that. I want to go back to Saturday Night Live for a second there because you are one of the few people that lasted Lauren's incarnation and then Lauren's sabbatical. And we've got a lot of fans of obviously the crossover fans between the Letterman community and the Saturday Night Live community. I mean, many of them are intertwined. Yes. You actually got to see both. Can you speak to how the tone of the show changed? Obviously you had a job description change in that time as well, but can you describe how the tone of the show changed when, was it Ebersol who took over after Lauren, or was it somebody in between?
There was somebody in between. I'm trying to remember her name.
Yeah, I feel like,
what was her name? Jean Domanian.
There you go.
She was the producer the 6th year.
Yep.
Her experience in producing was Bob and Ray, Jane, Lorraine, and Gilda TV special, and I was the music director on that show.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Anyway, but when she got the job at Saturday Night Live, she hired a guy named Kenny Vance, who was a doo-wop singer, and some famous doo-wop group. But you know, a musical director that doesn't read music. I mean, that's kind of so anyway, he needed me in the band because he needed an arranger. He needed an arranger to cover that part of it. So I was in the band that 6th year. And then the show almost went under when Gene was the producer. So
Yeah.
I think they cut the season short and then brought in Dick Ebersol. Dick Ebersol was college roommates at Yale with the head of late night programming. So, he got that job pretty easily. And so he was executive producer. Bob Tischler was the line producer. And Bob Tischler was the guy who produced and engineered all three Blues Brothers records.
Right.
Briefcase Full of Blues, soundtrack album, and Made in America. And so we had worked together carefully. So when he became the line producer, he called me to be the music director because he knew I could handle it.
Yeah. Let's talk about arranging for a second here. I think anybody who has watched the credits at all of Late Show, they see you there as the arranger. What does it mean? So you take a piece of music that's out there, and what does it mean to arrange it for what it is that you guys do exactly? Can you give our listeners exactly the process of that?
Arranging can mean a lot of different things.
Yes.
But sometimes somebody will present me with a song, and we want you to write out the parts, and sometimes we want you to create some horn parts that go along with this song. I do that quite a bit too. Now, currently, I do that online. People send me their records from South Africa, Amsterdam, Cleveland, all over the world. I arrange the horns and I put the horns on myself because I play 14 instruments professionally.
Yeah.
I record an entire big band by myself at my house. I'll send you some of that stuff after we.
Is that available? Like, can you go to Apple Music and grab that right now?
Not yet. I'm putting an album together where I play all the instruments.
Outstanding.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. It started during the pandemic. I'm sitting around the house, and gigs are disappearing, and so because of the pandemic, so I started doing this.
Now, is this new big band music, or is this like Glenn Miller and some old standards that you're doing yourself?
It's more, it's He's So Shy, and Hard Habit to Break, and, stuff like that. I Can See Clearly.
Awesome.
Jimmy Cliff. So it's more contemporary music. I like all that old big band stuff too, but that era is kind of over, and so it's got to be contemporary, more contemporary style.
Well, when you can fusion stuff, though, when you can take a contemporary song and present it in, I think about some of these concertos that come out, these 4-piece cellos that will take contemporary songs and put them into a strings type, or when you can present a certain type of music in a brand new way, that is it's a beautiful expression of how a song can open itself up like a flower in different ways. And I love the way that you're keeping big band alive by making that fusion with contemporary. That is very, very cool, Tom.
Well, arranging can be a lot of different things. I got an arranging story for you now. Okay.
Sure.
So at the Letterman show one day, our general schedule was taping from 4:30 to 5:30 in the afternoon. And then the show, of course, came on at 11:30?
Yep.
So
11:35, yeah.
Yeah. So we would so I'm off the stage, go upstairs, change clothes. I'm about to hit the street, and Paul's assistant says, can you meet with Paul in Paul's dressing room? Paul says, Renee Fleming is going to do the top 10 tomorrow. We need 13 opera excerpts by 11 in the morning. Yeah. Here's a CD with the 11 opera excerpts. And 13 opera excerpts, and here's Renee Fleming's recent CD. Figure out what key she should do them in. In other words, there was no, ordinarily you have a rehearsal with the piano and you figure out what key she should do it in.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then Paul, in a panic, says, how are we going to pull this off, Tom? And I said, I'll play flute. Aaron will play oboe. Our sax player will play oboe. Yep. We'll hire a clarinet, and we'll hire a French horn, and you'll play the string parts on the string synthesizer. And so that's what we did. And 11 in the morning, I got everything done, and one was in the wrong key. I had it in my laptop, transposed it, printed it out in Paul's office next door to the rehearsal space.
Yep.
And we moved right ahead. And I also had this thing in the back of my mind that Renee Fleming was going to be a diva and was going to be hard to work with. She turned out to be delightful, easy to work with, great sense of humor, just a lovely lady on every level.
That's awesome.
And decent singer too. Anyway, and it's on YouTube. Just type in Letterman Top 10 Renee Fleming. Bang.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it'll come right up. We had a lot of arranging experiences like that. One time they send a camera down to 48th Street, and the cameraman goes into Sam Ash Music, and he says, he sees a kid with a trumpet gig bag hanging over his shoulder, and they said, "You want to sit in with the Letterman Show band?" And the kid says, "When?" He said, "Right now." So the kid runs out on the street, gone. So they find another kid that's got a tenor sax bag over his shoulder, and
Sure.
"You want to sit in with the Letterman Show? When?" "Right now." The kid runs away. He's gone. So now there's a girl behind the counter. Now she can't run away. So,
Yeah.
so they go to her and they say, "Are you a musician?" "Yes." "What do you play?" "Alto sax." "You have your horn with you?" "Yes, it's right here." "Do you want to sit in with the Letterman Show right now?" "Yes." So the camera's following her down the street, started following her up Broadway to the theater. And she gets to the bandstand and Paul says, "What songs do you know?" And she says, "Well, I don't really know any songs by memory, but if you can write them out for me, I can read them."
Oh my
So we're
gosh.
like, okay, so Paul
On
said,
the fly.
yeah. So now the rhythm section knows all the standard songs. So it's Paul says, "Isn't she lovely? Tom, what key should she do it in?" "Write her out of part." Bang, bang, bang. I write her out of part. I hand her the part just as he counts it off.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we did the whole show like that. Okay, what should we do next? "Tom, what key should you do it in?" "Write her out of part." Yeah. We covered all the commercial breaks like that.
Okay, by that point in your career, I mean, you've done SNL. I assume SNL was the proving ground for firing you up for going live, and
Yes.
and changing the type of nervousness or jitters that you would have being live on TV. But
Yes.
I imagine a moment like that would infuse the adrenaline that comes with being, because when you guys taped a lot, like you guys ran the show like it was a live show, like it was tight as a drum, and very 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 little edits, if any, if possible. You ran it like it was live. I assume the feeling, even when you moved over to the Ed Sullivan Theater, very similar to Saturday Night Live. The energy is up. You guys, of course, a huge part of that energy. I assume moments like that were like that beautiful cold shower of live at the beginning, the nervousness that kind of shows up there, and it keeps you sharp, it keeps you standing straight.
Yes, it was still a live concept. They didn't stop and start like a pre-taped show. No, it was the whole idea was to make it feel live. I've got to talk about part of my reputation is being a member of the Blues Brothers. Yeah. And I thought I would tell you a story about that. The Blues Brothers almost never got started. Here's what happened. I was at the first meeting with Danny and John. It's just the three of us, Danny and John and myself. And they were telling me about these characters that they were developing that wore sunglasses day and night. And they were ne'er-do-well musicians from Chicago, orphans with very little emotional response. They were. So I wrote an arrangement of a song called Rocket 88 by James Cotton. And we rehearsed the Saturday Night Live band to back them up. Yep. And they're working out their little dance steps, and John's doing his flips. And so we did it for Lorne Michaels. Didn't make the show. Lorne got it done. Yeah. So the next week, John and Danny are still hot on the idea. So I did an arrangement of a song called "Hey Bartender." So we did it for Lorne. Lorne says, "Frankly, I don't see anything funny about the Blues Brothers." Shot us down week number 2.
Wow.
So the third week, Danny, John, Blues Brothers. So if Lorne doesn't like it, we're wasting our time. We got to move on. So after read through the third week, Lorne comes out about 3:15 and he's looking at his watch and he says, "The show's 3 minutes short. What are we going to do?" John and Danny jumped on him and said, "Lorne, the Blues Brothers." So Lorne said, "We have nothing worthwhile to put in those 3 minutes. You guys might as well make fools of yourselves." He put us on. Yeah. And I think I could say that the rest is history.
The rest is history. Well, I mean, you think about those SNL sketches, those magical SNL sketches that didn't appear till 1 o'clock, that ended up turning into something. And like Wayne's World is a prime example of that. I believe the first Wayne's World was a 1 a.m. Sketch, after update kind of a thing. And that's where a lot of the I don't want to call it lesser, but that's where some of the more maybe the more out there stuff or stuff that just wasn't cold open material or before update material, before the musical guest material appeared. And there's another example of that. I didn't realize the Blues Brothers was one of those. I'm really glad you brought that up, Tom. That's amazing. Like you say, the rest is history and the rest is legendary. I mean, oh my goodness. Did you have talk a little bit about John Belushi? Like, I mean, we're talking comedy legend here. You worked with him intimately.
Oh yeah, we were good friends. We lived close to each other in Greenwich Village. He lived at 60 Morton Street. I lived at 100 West Houston Street, and it was just short walking distance. So we were close friends. We hung out, and I really missed the guy too. Because he had his brilliance. He had he had a tendency to overdo things, and I think that's what led to his end. But
sure,
it was just his approach to life was bigger and better and more, consume more of whatever it was, and that was just part of his character. That was really him. He was bigger than life and did more of certain things, and but.
The gas pedal stays down right to the floor all the time.
Exactly. He went full speed all the time. Yeah. And his mind, he was just a great guy to be around, always creative. Another story. Okay, so there was a point where John and Danny decided they wanted to have a separate band from Saturday Night Live. It was going to be the Blues Brothers Band.
Right.
So now it's he took Lou Marini and myself, and I was going to be the horn arranger. And he says, if you need another horn, it's up to you. And so I hired Alan Rubin to be the third horn player, to be the trumpet player. And they chose Steve Jordan on drums, Paul Shaffer on keyboards to be the music director. And and then I recommended Duck Dunn and Steve Cropper because I'd played in a band with Levon Helm with them. And so, and that
all
changed.
Killers. These are all killers.
Yeah.
These are all,
The Blues Brothers at that point, before Duck and Steve came on, it was a Chicago blues style band. And when Duck and Steve came in, they brought in the Memphis rhythm and blues influence.
Okay.
And so, it became a little bit of both. Soul Man was our first hit single.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. Which was, out of their catalog. So, anyway, so we had a meeting over at John's place, 60 Morton Street. And he says, okay, we have a Matt Guitar Murphy and a Donald Duck Dunn in the band. So now everybody has to have a middle name. And if you can't think of one yourself, we'll make one up for you. So I immediately said, Tom Bones Malone, which was a nickname I got in high school.
Yep.
A friend of mine gave me that nickname. It didn't really stick, but I threw it out there. Saw my friend at a class reunion. He didn't even remember giving me that nickname.
Really?
But, I thanked him anyway. And so Lou Marini standing next to me. He says, how about Blue Lou Marini? Bang, that's it. And so he ended up, John made up Steve the Colonel Cropper, and he made up Alan Mr. Fabulous Rubin. But that became a whole thing, the middle name in the band. And that was just part of the fun. It's all part of the fun.
Gosh, Tom, it's almost like you've done this before. You're anticipating questions. Where did Bones come from? And all of that. I really appreciate you truncating a lot of this stuff and taking the kind of the softballs right off the table. This is phenomenal that you're doing this, because I want to get into, I love getting into the deeper stuff, and you're doing such a good job of truncating. I don't got to answer where Bones came from now. I'm
writing my own book. I've got 38 chapters already. And so,
awesome.
All this stuff's on my mind. Yeah. Working title is Name Dropper. I have indeed worked with everybody in the business except Frank Sinatra. And I got the call to play with Frank Sinatra in Atlantic City, and I already had another gig, so I had to turn it down.
Oh my gosh. We had Tom Dreesen on the show not too long ago. And I mean, talking to Tom, I mean, our goal of this show is to be a torchbearer. For again, without being cliche, the greatest body of broadcasting work in history, and that's encompassing the entire show. My goal is, as this thing takes off, unimaginatively titled Live on Letterman, I want to do a podcast that just focuses on the musical part of that broadcasting body of work, because it's so vast and deep, and I love that we're getting into some of the granularness of this. Sinatra, having Dreesen on, I mean, you talk about a torchbearer himself. There's a guy who, I mean, really, at the end of the day, the last member of the Rat Pack, kinda, and talking about these amazing, rich stories that involve show business, music, with the charisma of the people who made that music. Frank Sinatra, I mean, there's a guy who I look at my, I keep going to my 25-year-old daughter-in-law, and it's lost on her. And without these torchbearers, it's going to be completely lost forever, and we don't want that. And I love that you are writing a book. Do you have any idea about release date, anything like that? We're obviously going to promote the heck out of it when that does happen.
Well,
do you know when it's coming out?
Dreesen was the opening act for Frank Sinatra for several years. He was
Yes, sir.
He was the opening act, and so Letterman would always have him on the show because he wanted to hear some Frank Sinatra stories.
Absolutely.
And he gave us some great ones. He gave us some wonderful stories. So the book, I'm at a point now where I can either try to finish writing it myself or give it to a ghostwriter. Yeah. Which, of course, I'll give the ghostwriter credit. It's not
an arranger of sorts.
Well, I would like my ideas to be presented in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And if a professional writer can write it better than me, then I'm checking out a couple people. So I'm at the crossroads right now.
Well, I can't wait. Take my money. I'm in, and I will do whatever. I'll find you on the tour to get the signed copy. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm in. I'm in. It's no. I'm serious. And we will do everything. Hopefully, by then, the Letterman podcast has really, really blown up the way that we know it's going to, and we'll be able to be a trumpet for that project. I mean, reading Paul's book, of course, it's so great to bring richness into this world. You have that crazy. There's a few moments on the show I want to talk about, and I'll tell you the kind of fan I was. Even early on in the run, I got a special television that had that could understand some of the closed captioning signals. Now captions are a thing that a lot of people do when they watch the Netflix or watch their shows. A lot of people put the captions on, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of people didn't do that. I'll tell you this, Tom, I would do that because I wanted to see on the outros of the commercials, as you guys were going, just before the commercial would hit, it would always on the closed captions say what song the band was playing. And it was fascinating to me when you guys would bring on, I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. There was a point where Dave was like, oh, did you see the Nine Inch Nails at Woodstock? I'd love to have them on the show. And shortly after that, I'm talking within days, suddenly you guys are playing Hurt by Nine Inch Nails, and somehow making it work for your band in that environment, doing what you guys do between the commercial breaks, which is, by the way, play all the song. You guys played the entire time. You didn't just do an intro and an outro, and you guys kept that energy up and played the entire commercial break. I love that about you guys. The turnaround time on some of these arrangements seems to be almost instantaneous, which you alluded to, and also at Dave's whim. There was a lot of music that Dave would throw out there that you guys would then adapt to seemingly instantly. And that stayed the entire run. Is that one of the things that kept things fresh for you?
Oh yeah. You never knew what was going to happen. One time, the show's already taping. Okay. And Paul says, we're going to do a play on. We're going to play Stars and Stripes Forever. Tom, you play the piccolo part. and I knew the piccolo part because I used to play it as a novelty on the tuba.
Sure.
So, and he says,
my God.
And he says, yeah. So Paul says, what key should we play it in, Tom? And I'm thinking of a technique on the flute, and I'm thinking, on the piccolo, and I said, key of G. Now that's a pretty straightforward key for a C piccolo. And so we played it, and he counts it off 1, 2, 3, da 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 da, really fast. But anyway, so we and the rhythm section just played the song. They just knew the song, and we ended up playing that as crossover music many times after that time the first time we played it. So anyway, I get a call from a group called the Tarot Winds. It's a professional wind symphony in Atlanta. It's music educators, all fine musicians, 70-piece group, they hired me 6 months in advance to come down and be the guest artist with them. Okay,
Wow.
fine, great. So 3 weeks before the gig, they say, "We heard you play Stars and Stripes Forever on the piccolo. We want you to come out in front of the band and play it at the concert." Now I know it's going to be an A flat, and so I'm like, "Uh-oh." So what did I do? I bought a D flat piccolo, and now it's still in the key of G. Bang. So I go out in front of the band, and I play the piccolo part, and then so as I walk off, 11 piccolo players walk up behind me and play it again.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so like here's the cheat. I love music. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I'm a cheat with my guitar. I put a capo on.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did.
The reason I put it. Okay, but the fact that, and I just want to throw this out there. You talked about Paul's memory earlier, and the only word I can use to describe it is a prodigy type memory. When I see somebody who can sight read, I look at that and go, my God, that is a skill that is like alien to me. And when I see somebody who can transpose on the spot, who can be a literal human capo, I just bow down to that. And a lot of us who watch and listen to this show, haven't gone that deep down into music. You are a virtuoso. You're a modern day virtuoso. And I just want to give you that compliment and tell you how much I appreciate that story, hearing it. And as many of those as you want, please, please, please tell. A lot of people sat in with the band, guest musicians over the years. And I mean, you had some that came back time after time after time, John Popper and Buddy Guy and some of these people, John Mayer, folks who would show up. Can you give me any highlights of somebody who showed up and maybe the anticipation was awesome because you just wanted to work with this person or work with them again, or they showed up and like you alluded to earlier, kind of just they surprised you or knocked your socks off? Are there any memories that spring to mind as I kind of paint that picture?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Jimmy Smith, the famous jazz organ player, sat in with us for the whole show one time. That was it was just wonderful. One time Schaefer took off for a Jewish holiday and Herbie Hancock subbed for him.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh yeah. All these towards the end of the show, one of Dave's favorite groups is what Dave Grohl and
the Foo Fighters. Absolutely.
Foo Fighters, yeah. So
one of my favorite groups as well.
they did the whole, mine too. And they're nice guys too.
Yes.
And I hate to, remember Taylor. My God. Anyway,
it's great that we're talking about Taylor right now.
Yes.
And
nice
absolutely.
Guy, so they did the whole week. They were on 5 shows that week. It was shortly before Dave retired. And one of the shows we did, they brought in Tony Joe White to do Polk Saladani, and I got to write a horn chart. And Dave Grohl freaked out. I said, he comes up to the dressing room. He says, "Man, I love the horn arrangement." He says, "I was afraid of horns. I didn't know what to do with them." So I said, "Well, I was afraid of guitar. I didn't know what to do with that." And he laughed and gave me a big hug. And one night, Taylor Hawkins gets off the drums and comes out front, sings lead. Dave Grohl goes back and plays drums.
Yeah,
and it didn't lose a beat. It wasn't, the energy level stayed exactly.
I felt like that was that a cover? That was a cover of something too, wasn't it? It was a special kind of a thing that they did. It was now is it Zeppelin? Oh no, maybe it wasn't Zeppelin. That you just totally. I'm going to be going back and finding out that one because I remember that appearance. That was I loved moments like that. I loved moments where, like, I can think early on. I loved when you guys would do that and mix it up somehow, and it would just be special. The special musical moments on that show. And there's a lot of Late Show fans who, after the first guest would kind of check out or whatever, I was the guy who really wanted to see, what the musical act was going to do because of the integration of the CBS orchestra. I love that so much. Like early on, White Zombie was on early on, they were one of the big, and the keyboard part that Paul played during that, or the way that you guys would integrate in into some of these amazing pop acts or grunge acts or rock acts or whatever genre it was. And if you guys could integrate yourselves into the performance, it would make it the most unique performance of that band, whether they were on tour promoting a new album, whatever it was.
That's true.
Was
Oh,
that
yes.
always a focal point, or was that something where it just kind of happened when it happened?
Well, it just kind of happened, but you know, we always hoped that it would happen. I remember Snoop Dogg playing.
Yeah.
I wrote a horn chart for Snoop Dogg, and he did a song called "Get the Funk Out of My Face," written by Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones is sitting in the chair with Dave, you know, and so at the desk. So that was a highlight of my whole experience there. We did. Oh my God, CeeLo Green. We did him
Yes.
with the big orchestra.
Yep. That was
Right,
an amazing performance. Oh my
Bright
gosh.
Lights, Bigger City, and that was a fun arrangement that I got to write. And we also did MacArthur Park with Jimmy Webb on piano.
Yep.
Willie singing lead and playing bass at the same time on camera. So I got to write the whole big giant orchestra for that: French horn, strings, brass, woodwinds.
You have had a blessed, unique musical career in that you've been part of so many special moments with the biggest musical acts in history. I think of even again, I'm putting you on the spot with some of these things, but I just appreciate your memory so much. I hope that you can come back and we can do this more and more and more moving forward. I'm by no means going to the end, but I just want to be grateful in this moment for talking about these things with you. This is awesome. Do you remember near the end of the run, maybe 4 or 5 years, 2 or 3 years before the run, you guys had U2 week, and U2 was on every night of the week. Again, one of the biggest bands in the entire world coming on there. At that point in your career, are you immune to the fact that these are the biggest rock stars in the entire world and you're hobnobbing and all that kind of stuff? Is this just, this is the world I live in and this is who I am? Or are you still like, pinch me, I can't believe this is happening? Like, or is it a little both?
Well, I enjoyed working with those. It's only real ska band that I played with. U2 is really ska music, and that was a special moment for me to play with them, just because it was ska music, and I always liked that kind of music. I never really got to play it with anybody, so that was the real deal for me. Yeah, that was. I've been recently. I wrote my own Pops orchestra act. I wrote 16 arrangements. And it's called Orchestral Pop Music of the 20th Century. It's the Stylistics, the Temptations,
Yep.
Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
Nice. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Unforgettable by Nat Cole.
Yep.
Georgia on My Mind by Ray Charles. Just beautiful music. And I just play these melodies. I've done 4 so far, and one of them was a big fundraiser at North Texas State. And there was an after party, and this older lady, this kind of patron kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
She came up and she said she liked the music. I said, did you recognize any of the songs I played? She says, I knew the lyrics to every song. I took that as a compliment.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it shows that your finger is on the pulse of the human experience when it comes to music, and how you are not just replicating it, but you're interpreting it and bringing it out in a completely different form. Again, we talked about that fusion. Artists like you are extremely important, Tom. And when a band, like I think about the MTV Unplugged craze of the early 90s, which, by the way, I wish was still around. I wish we could take some of these pop acts. I've got a kind of a theory about that, is because with the invention of auto-tune, a lot of these pop acts that are out there don't enjoy necessarily going into the raw, vulnerable, unplugged kind of a setting. But you think about how many artists back then we hungered to see unplugged, and you guys were kind of a different version of that, because it's like, okay, we're not just going to unplug you, we're going to accentuate you and show you guys, whether it's the Beastie Boys or whoever, we're going to show you in a bit of a different light than what is used to being, and it keeps it fresh, certainly for us, for you as a very top tier level musician. It's just, I always use the phrase, it's just jazz, and that's kind of what it is for everything. You could probably jump in and improvise with anybody.
Absolutely. I can read music perfectly the first time. I'm a sight reader. That's a necessary skill for Well, just like 2 weekends ago, I was in the house band for a big rock festival up in Vancouver Island, Canada. And
With 300 miles from where I live, by the way. I'm in Kelowna, British Columbia. I go to Vancouver Island often.
We backed up about 5 different acts, and it was just bass, piano, drums, guitar, and one horn. I was tenor sax, and the guy would just the guitar player would just lean over and point at me, like look at me, and I'd start playing a solo. Yeah. And so I could, I can figure it out. If I can't figure it out by now, I should get out of the business. Yeah. I hear the song, I hear the chords, bang, I just start playing a solo.
Now, is it still fun? Is it still fun?
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. They say like some people go to work, I go to play. And
and you mean it in every sense, every layer of that statement. Yeah. You mean that.
And musician and magician are almost the same word. And some people are not aware that music is invisible. You can watch somebody strum a guitar, you can watch somebody play a trombone, but the music itself is invisible.
Yes. And
here's another concept that I have. Music harmony and color harmony are exactly the same thing from a frequency relationship. The relationship of C, E, and G is mathematical. Octaves are double the frequency. You have C32 yes. and C64 and C128, and C256, blah, blah. So you can hear about 8 or 10 octaves depending on your ear. You can see 1 octave, but the frequency relationships of, if you can visualize red, yellow, and blue.
Yep.
See, these harmonize, and it's kind of a happy feeling, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's C, E, and G. Okay, now, envision this now, orange, green, and purple. Now they harmonize too, but it's a whole different feeling psychologically. And that's D minor, D, F, and A. So right now,
God, you're melting my mind right now.
Now music and color are the same thing.
You can sight read.
Yes.
And if I have it correct, Paul doesn't read music.
Paul, he actually does read music, but he may not be as proficient at it as some other.
Okay, his ear is something that is outworldly. Like his ear is just okay. So this is where
I've used him on recording sessions, and you don't have to write him a chart. He comes in and listens to the song one time, and he just walks in the studio and plays his part.
This is where I want to ask about that. I don't want to get stuck in the minutia of what he can or can't do or anything, because he's clearly a genius. You are clearly a genius. You are both just geniuses on different spectrums of the same scale. Like you guys are both, and the question that I want to ask is, did you know that you complemented each other perfectly in your strengths at the very beginning, or did those two ways that you looked at playing or played take a little bit of adjustment to getting to know each other, because they are from different aspects of the same spectrum? That's my question. If that makes sense. If it's wrong, please correct me.
No, a little of both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul can't be bothered to write out an arrangement, so he gets me to do it for him.
Well, if you can just memorize the whole damn thing, why would you write it out? Right?
Yeah, but he can tell me the concept. Well, we want the strings to come in here, and we want the solo by the he can tell me exactly what he wants, and I can deliver it.
Yeah.
He knows he can hear it in his brain, and I can write it out.
So was that what you just said, that shorthand, the beautiful summation of what you just said, was that evident when you guys were working together on Saturday Night Live, or did it take a little while to gel with that?
Absolutely, because a lot of times if there was a music script in the show, Paul would we'd bring the people in, Paul would play along with the skit, and we would tape that, and then I would write out, based on that format and timing, comedy timing and everything, I'd write an arrangement for the whole band.
Right.
Based on his rehearsal piano.
Yeah, that's peanut butter and jelly, isn't it?
We did that almost every week.
That is total peanut butter and jelly. And I'm glad that you guys discovered that right away. What a fearsome team that you guys were. And an asset to the little engine that was Saturday Night Live. Like, I mean, everything about that show at the beginning was experimental.
Yes.
And the music, obviously a key part of it right from the very, very first episode.
Yes.
The fact that they had that going for it on the musical side is just as important as the fact that you had Chevy and Tan, Gilda and Jane and John on the other side. What a confluence. It's a magic potion that just was done right from the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they were, they were sort of pioneers. They were taking chances,
Yes.
can we do this on TV? So that was yeah. Speaking of On the Edge,
Yes, sir.
So we're on the show one day, and Dave's doing the monologue, and yep. This was my 15 seconds. Dave's doing the monologue, and he says, a guy in Kansas City got arrested yesterday for having sex with a cash machine. So I whispered to Paul on the intercom, I said, he wanted to come into money. and so Paul stops the show. Dave, my trombone player has a better punchline. And he gives him a punchline. And the show stopped for like 2 minutes. And Dave's like, where were you at the meeting? But the band has to write some material.
Quite literally. Yeah. Now they're writing the comedy too. Walter Kim and Don Giller, take note to this moment and throw it out there, please. Get it out there right now.
Yeah, Don Giller has documented so much about the show. He'd be a good guy to interview.
Don. Hey, Don is we're eternally grateful for everything that Don does behind the scenes with us and the fact checking and all of the ideas and everything. This episode
Kim as well too. Very intelligent guy.
Well, hey, if he would do interviews, I'd have him on in a second. But we're talking about a very particular personality that doesn't enjoy the publicity and that kind of thing. But we appreciate everything he's doing for us behind the scenes. And we talk about him in the Steve O'Donnell episode that aired. It's airing. It'll have aired by the time this episode airs. We talk about Don in that episode as well. But at the end of the day, Walter, Don, that moment that Tom just brought up, please get it out there. That we want to see that one. That's phenomenal. That's like that moment there is just like when Paul Julia Roberts was on, and it's one of my favorite Paul Shaffer moments of all time. And I think Julia had just separated. I don't want to bring up, negative stuff or anything like that, but she had just gone through something. And Dave looks over at Paul and says, hey, Paul, you got a question for Julia? And he goes, hey, you getting laid lately? And the whole place came unglued, and Dave got up, Paul, and did his thing. And that was just that's one of those moments where you can't script that stuff, and I just appreciate that. Hey, listen, I got a couple other things I want to ask you about. Can we break for a quick sponsor? Can we do a quick sponsor shout out?
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that. And maybe you can contribute to it. In fact, I think you might be able to. If there's anything I like doing, Tom, is it's getting the guests to participate in a commercial that they had no intention of doing at the very beginning. And this is one that I think is real easy. Hey, everybody, did you know that the Letterman podcast right now has one sponsor? We're brought to you in part by the Hello Deli, Rupert G and the Hello Deli.
Well, Rupert G is a good friend of mine, of course. I mean, I had lunch there every day for how many years? And his wife, and it just... it's just a happy place to drop into, soups, sandwiches, everybody.
Did you have a favorite sandwich, Tom?
Everything he made was great.
Absolutely.
And the soups, they had special soups every day. And anybody that's in New York should drop by there just to experience it. And, he's quite a character himself too. Yeah,
I could not agree more. And just so the viewing audience is aware, one of the only places on the planet that you can get licensed Late Show with David Letterman merchandise. Hey, right? Did your Late Show coffee mug get did you broken along the way?
And a double-ended pencil.
Hey, I wish he sold those. I've got one. I've got some friends from the that's good. I was going to ask you. That's one of my questions. If you had any souvenirs that you kept, that's on the docket. Go to hello-deli.com and you can get Late Show merchandise, hats, shirts, mugs, all sorts of stuff. Rupert packs them himself. If you ask him very nicely, he might add onions to the order. And please go to hello-deli.com and get yourself some Late Show with David Letterman merchandise, official stuff, and also Rupert t-shirts, all sorts of stuff. And like Tom said, if you're in New York, nestled in the womb of the Ed Sullivan Theater is the Hello Deli. Go and visit Rupert. He is, I maintain, if you average it out, he is probably the gentleman that takes more selfies than anyone else in the New York area. He is like, God took the word kind and made it into a human being. He and his business partner, May, still running the deli, still doing their things. Go see them while you can. There we go. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that, buddy.
And tell Rupert that Bones said hello.
There you go. I'm going to do that too, because he and I correspond every other day. So I'll definitely do that. And he watches these episodes, so he's going to get a great kick out of that. Thank you for this here. I appreciate your time very, very much, and I want to be mindful of it. So we can kind of start moving towards home here. Tom, if you wouldn't mind coming back on the show, and I mean, I've got so many things that I can ask you about. And we've literally scratched the surface here. Now that we've scratched the surface, the next time we can kind of go deeper into the weeds. You love telling these stories. I hope that there's an opportunity at some point, maybe with the book tour, maybe with touring any of the musical acts, where you can go and you can actually do some spoken word stuff and tell some of these anecdotes. They're fascinating and they're beautiful moments. I just appreciate you very, very much for this. I want to ask about, there's a moment I want to ask about for sure. Early on in the Late Show run, Dave became obsessed with Pearl Jam's Black, the song Black, and Eddie Vedder did a walk on. And it was the end of the song where he goes into kind of the vocal solo, that part of it. And Dave just needed to hear that. Eddie Vedder walks on, the band starts playing the end of Black. Eddie Vedder does his thing, walks off and leaves. I would love to know that story from your point of view.
Well, that's Pearl Jam is one of Dave's very favorite bands of all time, and of course Eddie, the lead singer. And I was privileged to be in the house band for the in Washington for the Comedy Awards, the Mark Twain Comedy Awards. Awesome. I did it 2 years in a row. It was Bill Murray and David Letterman 2 years in a row. And anyway, when Dave was there, Eddie Vedder came on with an acoustic guitar and did a song by himself. And Dave was just like, he was just almost in tears. Just like, it was so emotional for him. And Eddie is such a really nice guy. I work with a lot of famous people, and sometimes you got people that act like stars, but then Eddie is just like you and I talking. He's just like mellow. Same thing. I played on Paul McCartney's most recent album, Egypt Station, and we're hanging out with him in the studio, and it's just like you and I talking. It's not like is there any more famous musician on the planet?
Nope.
And he's after watching that documentary, he's clearly the leader of the Beatles.
Oh. What a phenomenal! I mean, what a phenomenal documentary that was. Talk about a gift that none of us really knew was coming, and Peter Jackson and his team did a tremendous job on that. I mean,
just great.
Was it ever?
Yeah. I was also honored to be at the rock and roll in the house band for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Awards in Cleveland. When
I was getting to that, but anyway, keep going.
Ringo Starr was inducted. So Paul came in to induct him. And Paul says, well, we had this band in Liverpool and our drummer wasn't working out. So we called this guy to come in and audition, and he had a good beat, and we called this other guy in and he had another good beat, and we called this other guy in and he had another good beat. And then we got to this guy Ringo came in and he had 5-6 different beats. So I said, guys, I think we should go with Ringo. And Ringo turned out to be very just hanging out. I got a picture with him that I'll never forget.
I mean, you think about that stage you got to play on every night. Okay. And I mean, there's so many dimensions that we could talk about with the Ed Sullivan Theater. I've maintained that when you walk in there, it has an energy to itself. It's a character in the show unto itself. It literally, I've heard that they've turned it way more TV studio now with like, and it's lost a little bit of the luster a little bit. No offense to any of the new incarnation in there, but when you would walk in there, it felt like a hallowed ground. And
That's
Go
where the
ahead.
Beatles. That's the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. You know.
You took the words right out of my mouth. So you walk in there and it's got all this energy from all these memories, and then there are times where you see the guy who played there so many years ago, and you're a contemporary with that guy. Like, pardon my language, that fucks around with your head a little bit. It's got to fuck around with your head a little bit and go, oh my God, and create these pinch me moments.
Well, Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, just go down the list. Everybody performed in that theater.
And then they come back. I just I'm so, this is so great talking about this again. I can't believe it's taking us this long to have a musical theme to this show here. Obviously, every member of the band is a dream guest, and we want to have them all on here. I'm really grateful that you're one of the first ones to do this from the musical standpoint. Again, the goal for me is that we eventually branch off and have two. We have a Letterman music based podcast and show because again, that's a torch that needs to be passed. Listen, I'm going to throw a real curveball at you. Okay. And we didn't pre-interview this, folks. Believe me, even though Tom is coming across like, the pro that he is, we did not pre-interview this. So this might be a moment that doesn't, that falls a little flat, but it won't, because this is one of my favorite musical moments. There's a band from Britain, kind of a rock blues band that was on twice. And one of the things that I loved about what you guys did on that show was I discovered so many of my favorite songs or bands or artists because of their network television debut or something like that. Because sure. I can't wait to have some people on who were the talent bookers or the music bookers, because they did a phenomenal job of finding different artists and putting them on at exactly the right time, or with the benefit of hindsight, looking back going, oh my God, that person was on Letterman, a couple of years before they popped or whatever.
Well, anybody that's any talent that's booked on the show is they either have a book or they have a movie or they have a record. That's it. It's one of the, and you'll sometimes find all three on the same show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you talk about the idea of variety show. No other show encapsulated it more than you guys did. Again, the greatest in my opinion, but not just a variety show, but also the greatest show in broadcasting, because it's bigger than just a variety show. But the variety was what made it so good. There's a band from Britain called The Heavy. And
the Heavy. The brand new.
That? Yes.
The Brand New Heavies.
No, not the Brand New Heavies. The Heavy.
The Heavies.
The Heavy. And The Heavy came on, and there was two very memorable appearances that they did. I don't know if you guys, because they had their own horn section, but you guys might have also accentuated it. They did a song called How You Like Me Now. And Dave fell in love with the song while they were playing it. And it was so good that Dave came out at the end of the show, and he looked, and he didn't even do the, hey, those your drums or whatever. He just looked at the band and said, "Could you please play that song again?" and he made them play the song again. So a British bluesy band, Kelvin, amazing vocalist up front. They're like, okay, and they played the song again. So How You Like Me Now. Now the next time they came on, they played a song called What Makes a Good Man. And again, horn section, the whole 9 yards. Dave,
they brought their own horn section.
They brought their own horn section.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Anyway, Walter, Don, put up the Heavy if you can. And this is actually leading to a question that I have for you. That's a moment that's ingrained in my mind, and it will be forever, because when they finished What Makes a Good Man, Letterman comes out once again and he goes, hey guys, can you play something else? How about a little How You Like Me Now? And he makes them play How You Like Me Now again. Off the, it was a phenomenal moment. So here's my question. Moments like that, do Walter and his team at Worldwide that are putting these moments out now, do they have issues when it comes to rights? Like, that's a magical moment. Does he have the power to just basically take that moment, throw it out onto the YouTube, or because it's an artist with their own catalog of music and rights and things like that, is that more red tape to cut through to be able to do something like that?
I would think that he would have to get clearance from the group before he put something like that out. But more than likely, the group would think of that as being promotion. Like
Yes,
you have you have a YouTube video of a group and somebody hears the group, well, they might buy the album.
absolutely.
Yeah, or one way or the other. Yeah. Physical album or a virtual album, it's a different world we live in now, but you can certainly find the music one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I that was one of my very favorite kind of bookended moments on there. Before I get to the last question, do you have any moments from Late Show that, as I say, some of your very special moments for whatever reason, could be little or big or whatever. Do you have any special moments? When I ask that question, what are the first one or two that come to mind?
Oh, wow. Well, I mentioned Snoop Dogg and I mentioned Herbie Hancock. So
Yep.
those are the first two that come to mind, but there's been so many moments. I get this question all the time.
Yeah, I
There's been
bet you
so
do.
many moments that it's almost impossible to,
Yeah.
to trim it down to two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then let me go this way and we'll take her home with this question. This is the take home question I have for almost every guest that we have. Dave has obviously gone through many incarnations in his career. I love them all. Certain people gravitate towards certain ones. Now he's doing the long form on Netflix, and he's also got his new show where he's helping to break new comics as well. It's awesome to see that. But my next guest needs no introduction. The question that I like to ask a lot of our guests to bring the show home is, if there were three people, now I really want your opinion on this, because I mean, I watched the Jay-Z episode where he is not just meeting with Jay-Z, but also, some of these producers and the Tina Fey episode, he met with Buddy Guy and all that. Obviously music is such an important thing, and having these long form conversations with people. Let's just say you're the booker and the sky's the limit, and you could pick three people in music that Dave could have an hour-long conversation with. Who are the three people?
Well, Dave Grohl would be one that Dave would want to talk to, and Eddie Vedder would be one he'd want to talk to, and Taylor Hawkins would be one that he wish he could book. Yeah, sorry.
Tom, you're a man after my own heart. Bringing it home, Tom Bones Malone, bringing it home with the sentimentality and the right place. And we're thinking of our friends, in the music, as music fans, music enthusiasts, and of course those attached to all the projects that Dave Grohl and company are attached to with Taylor's passing. Yeah.
The nice thing about recorded music is that even when somebody passes, the music lives on. The music is on. It's been captured, and it's available to listen and remember. A lot of like I played with B.B. King. A long list of people that are no longer with us, but
let me call an audible here, Tom. I'm going to call an audible here just in case something happens. I don't get a chance to talk to you on the show anytime soon. Let's call an audible, because what you just said there is really important. And Taylor, by the way, my friend Joel Day, shout out to Joel Day, gigantic Foo Fighters and Pearl Jam fan in his own right. He's got his own musical NFT empire he's building. The quote that he said when Taylor passed is one that I don't know if he got it from somewhere or if he actually said it himself, but it perfectly encapsulated. Taylor Hawkins, the only guy who people would accept being the drummer for Dave Grohl. And exactly. I think,
Dave Grohl is a hard act to follow.
That's what I'm saying. And Taylor's the guy that could be the drummer for Dave Grohl and people would accept it.
And he had his style of playing too. You see where he pulls the stick way up?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, he had his, and it had its own sound.
One day I'm going to do a podcast about Dave and drums, and just with that, but the affection that he has for drums and things that I want that to get out there too.
Early in the 22 years, Dave used to come over to the bandstand after the rehearsal. He'd come over to the bandstand and sit in on the drums, just play the drums by himself, and that went on for several years. And then one day he just stopped doing it. I'm trying to remember why, but maybe in some sort of temporary health problem or something like that. But yeah, he was, and when the band was at NBC, the band chipped in and for either Christmas or his birthday gave him a set of drums. That was before I was on the scene, but that was one of the connections that Dave, because Dave, he just loved the drums. He loved Anton, our drummer. Oh my God. Yeah,
Anton Fig is
just an amazing drummer in his own right.
I loved when you guys included all the members of the band, but Anton obviously special. When you say that, I just smile because I think of all the times that they've included him and whatnot. The audible that I was called before we go home now, again, I've tried to close it 3 times and it's impossible to do with you. I could do this all day with you. Let's say something about Warren Zevon.
We'll do it another time.
Good. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, brother.
Well, Warren Zevon, we know he was on the show quite a few times and we became friends. And so I run into him on the hall one day and I just said, so how you doing? How's your health? And he says, well, I went to the doctor. I hadn't gone to the doctor for 12 years. And the doctor says, I have cancer and there's nothing he can do about it. That got me in the heart. And, and he gave his guitar to Dave.
I was just gonna, I'm no longer gonna need this anymore. Here you go, and hands his guitar to David Letterman.
He was one of the Dave's favorite musicians, and also, when he had a way of writing songs that had humor in them.
Yes.
No, they were. He had a unique angle.
They were clever, clever and layered. Yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily complicated music, but the lyrics had some. They had some content that Dave could relate to. All of us comedy people could relate to. So. And he was the nicest guy, easy to work with. Once again, and his music lives on.
And there's no better way to end this first time of Tom's Bones Malone being on the Letterman podcast. I'm going to end it here before we say goodbye. So you'll hear the recording stop and then we can say goodbye, Tom. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. You're still, you're in New York forever now. You're adjusting to the West Coast and all these things going on in your life and all these, but I love hearing the projects. I love hearing that you're still busy and you've got all these things that we can look forward to. I can't wait to help you promote these things. Tom's Bones Malone, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the Letterman podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
All right, that's another episode, everybody. I'm going to keep it on the gallery view as we say goodbye here. That is another episode of the Letterman podcast. Again, this is the time of the show. Unfortunately, we're still small enough where I got to say, please share, please like, please subscribe, whether you're on the YouTubes or the Apple or Spotify's, wherever you are. Heck, even the other platforms. Go onto the platform you're listening or absorbing this episode. Go onto the other platforms, like, share, and subscribe them too. Let's build something big here. We're creating a community that is going to pass the torch of the greatest body of broadcasting work in history. That is another episode of the Letterman podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm. Thank you and good night.
Overcoat and underpants.